There comes a moment in every woman's life when something shifts deep within. It's not loud, it doesn't ask for attention, but it's powerful. Suddenly, the need to please everyone fades. The pressure to be liked, accepted, or understood starts to lose its grip, and what rises in its place is something far stronger. A sense of self, a knowing, a quiet, unshakable truth. You are not here to shrink yourself. You are here to become. Becoming the woman you were meant to be is not about achieving a checklist of accomplishments or meeting someone else's definition of success. It's about peeling back the layers of expectations that have been placed on you by society, family, relationships, and finding the core of who you really are. It's about learning to trust your own voice, honoring your boundaries, and loving yourself through all your phases. This journey isn't always graceful. Some days you'll feel like you're moving backward. Other days you'll feel like you're standing still. But real growth often looks like chaos before it reveals its purpose. And in the midst of that chaos, there are signs. Quiet, powerful indicators that you're stepping into the woman you were always meant to be. Maybe you're speaking up when you used to stay silent. Maybe you're walking away from what no longer serves you. Maybe you're choosing rest without guilt, or choosing yourself without apology. These are not small things, these are everything. This series is about recognizing those moments. It's a reminder that you're not lost, you're evolving, you're not falling apart, you're breaking open. Through each part of this series, you'll discover signs of transformation that may already be unfolding in your life. Some you'll recognize instantly, others may plant a seed that blooms later. You don't need to have it all figured out, you don't need to rush. Becoming is not a race, it's a returning, a coming home to your truth, your voice, your power. So take a deep breath, let go of who the world told you to be, and step into who you truly are. You're becoming her. Let's walk the path together. You're no longer afraid to be alone. There was a time when silence felt like punishment, when being alone made you feel unwanted, unloved, or behind in life. You searched for people to fill the void, to distract from the stillness, to validate your worth. But something shifted. Now solitude no longer scares you. It empowers you. You've started to realize that being alone isn't the same as being lonely. In fact, some of your greatest clarity, peace, and healing have come from moments spent in your own company. Where once you needed the noise of others to feel secure, now you crave the quiet that lets you reconnect with yourself. That is no small thing, that is growth. You no longer chase company for the sake of company. You've stopped entertaining conversations that drain you or pretending to be someone you're not just to keep others around. You've become more selective, not because you think you're better, but because you finally understand your energy is sacred. Time spent alone is no longer something to escape, it's something you protect. When you're no longer afraid to be alone, you stop settling, you stop forcing connections, you stop saying yes to people who only show up when it's convenient, and most importantly, you stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never made for you. You hold space for yourself instead. Your alone time has become your sanctuary. It's where you reflect, where you rebuild, where you breathe without pressure. You've found hobbies that bring you joy, books that speak to your soul, music that lifts you, and silence that heals. You've begun to realize that being alone doesn't mean you're missing something. Sometimes it means you've found something, you. It's in solitude that you've learned how to meet your own needs. You've figured out how to soothe your own anxiety, motivate your own growth, and sit with your own emotions. That self-trust, that's a sign of becoming. Because the woman you were meant to be doesn't need to be completed by anyone else. She is whole on her own. So if you're spending more time alone lately, not because you're isolated, but because you're intentional, know that this is not regression. This is not you pulling away from the world. This is you pulling back into yourself. And from that space, you are becoming powerful, self-aware, and unshakable. Being alone has taught you that peace is not found in people, it's found in presence. And you've become your own peace. That is a sign. And it's beautiful. You set boundaries without apologizing. There was a time when saying no felt like betrayal, when setting boundaries felt selfish, when you'd stretch yourself thin just to avoid disappointing others. But now, things are different. You've started to protect your energy, and you do it without guilt. You've realized that your time, emotions, and space are not up for grabs. They are earned, not owed. And anyone who makes you feel bad for needing to protect your peace isn't someone who truly respects you. That realization didn't come easily. It came after years of overcommitting, people-pleasing, and burning out. But it came. And with it, you started drawing lines. At first, it felt uncomfortable, saying no to family, walking away from draining friendships, declining invitations that didn't feel right. But over time, you began to notice something. The more you honored your boundaries, the more whole you felt. the resentment disappeared, the anxiety faded. You were no longer betraying yourself to keep others comfortable. This new version of you doesn't explain your boundaries. You don't feel the need to over-justify your decisions. You've stopped sugarcoating your truth to keep the peace. Because now you understand that real peace isn't found in being agreeable, it's found in being authentic. You've stopped answering texts immediately out of obligation. You take time to rest without needing to prove you've earned it. You walk away from conversations that cross a line. You don't tolerate guilt trips, manipulation, or passive-aggressive comments, not even from people you once feared losing. That isn't rudeness, that's self-respect. Setting boundaries has allowed you to grow into the kind of woman who can trust herself. You no longer look outward for permission to take care of yourself. You know your limits, you know your worth, and you know that the people meant to stay in your life won't be scared off by your strength. They'll respect it. You've become a woman who doesn't bend under pressure, who doesn't make herself small just to be liked, who doesn't confuse sacrifice with love, and who understands that boundaries are not walls, they are bridges. They allow healthy connections to thrive while keeping toxic ones from causing harm. You used to feel bad for choosing yourself. Now you feel bad when you don't. That's the difference. That's the growth. That's becoming. You trust your intuition more than other people's opinions. You used to second-guess yourself constantly. You'd ask for advice, gather opinions, and delay decisions because you didn't want to make the wrong move. You feared judgment. You feared failure. But most of all, you feared not being liked. So you relied on others to tell you what to do, who to be, and what was best for you. But things have changed. Now you've begun to trust that quiet voice within, the one that always knew. Your intuition has become your guide. It's not loud, but it's wise. It speaks in feelings, nudges, and knowing. And the more you listen to it, the clearer your path becomes. You've stopped ignoring red flags just because someone told you to give it more time. You've stopped silencing your discomfort just to avoid awkward conversations. You no longer override your gut because someone else means well. You've learned that no matter how experienced someone else is, they don't live in your body. They don't feel your emotions. They don't carry your soul's truth. Trusting your intuition has become your greatest form of self-respect. You no longer need a panel of approval to move forward. You move because it feels right. You stay because it aligns. You walk away because something deep inside says, "This isn't for me." And when that voice whispers, you don't doubt it. You listen. You don't explain it. You follow it. That trust didn't come overnight. It was built through experience, through ignoring your instincts and learning the hard way. But now, every time you honor your inner voice, you reclaim a little more of yourself. And that's how you become her. The woman who doesn't fold under pressure, doesn't chase external validation, and doesn't silence her soul for approval. You've learned that logic is useful, but intuition is sacred. It protects, it reveals, it aligns. And now you move through life more confidently because your compass comes from within. You are no longer afraid to choose differently, even if it means walking alone, because you've realized that being in alignment is far more fulfilling than being accepted for someone you're not. And when people ask you why you made a certain decision, you don't give a long explanation. You simply say, "It didn't feel right." That's not weakness, that's wisdom, that's growth, that's becoming. Know your worth first. Before you even begin to think about love, before you open your heart to another person, you must build the strongest foundation a woman can have: self-worth. You see, when a woman knows who she is, what she brings, and what she deserves, she stops accepting less than she deserves. She stops chasing, begging, or convincing someone to love her. Begging for love is a direct sign that you've forgotten your power, that you've started believing someone else's validation is more important than your own. But you were never made to grovel. You were made to shine like a queen, to walk into a room with your head high, knowing that if someone cannot see your value, they are not meant to be there. Love isn't about pleading. It's not about proving yourself to someone. Real love sees you. It doesn't ask you to shrink, to change your essence, to constantly chase texts or decode silence. Real love is steady, it's clear, it's mutual. There will be moments when you feel the urge to hold on to a man who gives you just enough to keep you hoping, but never enough to feel secure. And in those moments, you have to ask yourself, is this love or is this fear? Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of not finding someone else. But the truth is, you'd rather walk alone in dignity than stay with someone who treats you like an option. The right one? He won't need convincing. He won't play games. He won't see your love as a burden. He will honor it, protect it, cherish it. Stop lowering your standards to fit inside someone else's limited vision. Your worth isn't up for debate. You are not too much. You are not too emotional. You are not too strong. You are exactly as you were meant to be. And the right one will see it without you ever needing to beg. Walk away from anyone who makes you feel small. Leave quietly. Leave proudly. But leave. Because when you create space by walking away, you allow something better to walk in. You were never meant to beg for what is yours. You were meant to rise, and only those who can meet you at your level should be allowed into your heart. You've made peace with your past. There was a time when your past haunted you. Mistakes replayed in your mind like broken records. Regret sat heavy on your chest. You carried guilt for choices you made when you didn't know better. Shame for the things you tolerated. Anger at yourself for not leaving sooner, not speaking louder, not trusting your gut. But somewhere along the way, you stopped running from your past and started facing it, not to relive the pain, but to reclaim your power. You began to see your past not as something to be erased, but as something to be understood. You stopped looking at younger versions of yourself with judgment and instead offered her compassion. You realized she was doing the best she could with what she knew. She wasn't weak. She was surviving. And survival takes strength. That realization softened you. It allowed you to forgive yourself. Not in the sense of pretending nothing happened, but in the deeper sense of no longer letting it control you. You gave yourself closure. Not because others gave it to you, but because you were strong enough to create it for yourself. You stopped needing apologies from people who would never offer them. You stopped seeking explanations that wouldn't bring peace. You let go, not because it didn't matter, but because it mattered too much to carry any longer. And in that release, you made room for something new: peace, stillness, clarity. You stopped over-explaining your past to those who didn't earn your story. You stopped defining yourself by your worst moments. You understood that your past shaped you, but it no longer defines you. Now, when old memories surface, they don't unnerve you. They remind you of how far you've come. They are proof that even in your lowest moments, you were growing, becoming, evolving. You look back, not to grieve, but to honor your journey. That is power. You've back. I'm a woman who walks forward with grace, not because her past was easy, but because she's no longer chained to it. You no longer punish yourself for who you were. You love that version of you for getting you here. You've stopped hiding your story. You've started owning it. Because now, you know, your past is not your weakness. It is your wisdom. That shift, that healing, that freedom, it's a sign. You're becoming her. You redefine success on your own terms. For years, you chased the version of success that was handed to you. The job title, the relationship, the approval, the curated timeline, married by a certain age, career peaking by another, children, home, image, legacy. You tried to fit into that mold, believing that once you had all the pieces, you'd finally feel whole. But something felt off. Even as you checked the boxes, the emptiness lingered. You were doing what was expected, not what was aligned. And then one day, you paused long enough to ask yourself, whose dream am I chasing? That moment of questioning cracked everything open. You began stripping away the noise, the expectations, the pressure. You stopped chasing a version of success that never really felt like yours. You let go of what you were supposed to want and started asking, what do I actually want? What makes me feel alive? And that's when everything changed. You've redefined success in a way that honors your spirit. It's not about performance anymore. It's about peace. It's not about recognition. It's about alignment. Success for you looks like waking up with clarity, going to bed without anxiety, doing meaningful work, having deep, soulful relationships, saying no without guilt, saying yes without fear. You no longer compare your timeline to anyone else's. You no longer feel behind when someone else shines. You celebrate others, not because you're trying to be nice, but because you finally believe there's room for everyone, including you. Your version of success now includes things that can't be posted or measured: mental clarity, emotional stability, spiritual connection. And that's not something everyone will understand. But you do, and that's enough. You no longer hustle to be seen. You rest and still feel worthy. You pause and still feel productive. You slow down and still feel powerful. You've detached your worth from your output. You no longer grind yourself to the bone to earn rest. You know now, rest is productive too. And because you've created your own definition of success, you've started living a life that feels good, not just one that looks good. You walk differently now. You carry yourself with a quiet confidence. You're no longer rushing to arrive. You're grounded in the now. That contentment, that calm, that sovereignty, it's a sign. You're becoming the woman you were always meant to be. Successful by her own standards, joyful on her own path, and fulfilled in ways the world can't measure. You embrace your emotions without shame. There was a time when you believed your emotions made you weak. You apologized for crying, hid your anger, buried your sadness, and masked your anxiety behind a forced smile. You learned to suppress rather than express. Not because you wanted to, but because the world told you it was more acceptable. But something inside you shifted. You began to realize that emotions are not the enemy. They are messengers. Each one holds wisdom. Your tears speak of release. Your anger points to your boundaries. Your sadness reveals what matters to you. Your joy reminds you what lights your soul. You no longer run from these feelings. You listen to them. That takes courage. It's easy to stay numb, to brush everything under the rug and perform okay for the sake of comfort. But you've chosen discomfort over denial. You've learned to sit with what's hard, to cry when needed, to scream when it's real, to rest when you're exhausted. Not as a reward, but as a necessity. Now, when emotions rise, you don't judge yourself. You give yourself space to feel. You know there's no such thing as being too emotional. You're human. And feeling deeply is not a flaw. It's a gift. You no longer label your sensitivity as a burden. It's your strength. It allows you to connect, to create, to heal, and to understand others on a deeper level. You've turned inward instead of blaming outward. You've asked, what is this feeling trying to teach me, rather than pushing it away? And in doing so, you've learned to regulate instead of repress. You process emotions instead of projecting them onto others. You communicate your needs with clarity instead of shutting down. You've made peace with the fact that emotional healing is not linear. Some days feel like breakthroughs, others feel like setbacks. But no matter how slow the process feels, it's still progress. You've also stopped letting the world tell you which emotions are acceptable. You've made room for your full range, the light and the dark. You don't just show up with love and light, you show up with honesty and depth. This version of you doesn't fear emotional intensity. She welcomes it, because she knows that whatever she feels, she can handle it, and that makes her unshakable. You've become emotionally intelligent, emotionally resilient, emotionally free. That freedom, that self-acceptance, that inner strength, it's a sign. You're becoming her, the woman who doesn't hide, deny, or shrink, but instead feels fully and rises stronger because of it. You inspire without even trying. You used to believe inspiration came from being perfect, from having it all together, achieving visible success, and always showing strength. You thought you had to wait until you made it to become someone worth looking up to. But now, you've realized something deeper. Your power lies in your realness. You don't inspire because your life is flawless. You inspire because you kept going. You've survived things you don't talk about often. You've grown through storms others never saw. And despite it all, you show up. Soft, steady, and full of depth. The most beautiful part, you're not even trying to impress. You're just being you. That alone has become a light for others. Your honesty has become someone's validation. Your boundaries have become someone's permission. Your healing has become someone's hope. You may not even notice the ripple effect you create, but people feel it. They watch how you carry yourself with quiet strength, how you speak truth without harshness, how you remain kind in a world that often isn't. You've stopped performing. You've started living in alignment. You follow your intuition, protect your peace, and speak from your heart. And in doing so, you lead by example, not with noise, but with presence. You've also begun to uplift others without losing yourself. You celebrate people genuinely, without competition or envy. You offer encouragement not for attention, but from overflow. Your words come from experience, not ego. Your wisdom comes from the work you've done in the dark. You don't need a stage to be impactful. Your life is the stage. Your quiet resilience speaks volumes. Your self-respect inspires others to respect themselves. Your softness in hard situations reminds others that grace is still power. Even in moments of doubt, your authenticity leaves an imprint. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. You don't pretend to have all the answers. You just show that it's okay to grow, to stumble, to learn, and to rise. You've become a mirror for others to see what's possible, without preaching, without posturing, simply by existing in your truth. And when people say there's something about you now, what they're sensing is your alignment, your groundedness, your integrity, your evolution. That's what makes you magnetic. That's what makes you inspiring. Not because you tried to be, but because you chose to become. And that is a sign. You're not just becoming the woman you were meant to be. You already are her. And the world is quietly watching in awe. If you've made it this far, then you already know. This journey was never about becoming someone else. It was about remembering the version of you that was always there, buried beneath fear, self-doubt, and expectations. The woman you were meant to be doesn't live in someone else's approval. She lives in your choices, your healing, your courage. You don't need to shout your growth from the rooftops. Let it speak through the way you carry yourself, the way you love yourself, the way you no longer settle for half-hearted anything. The signs are there, in your strength, in your peace, in your clarity. There will still be days when you feel unsure. That's okay. Growth isn't a straight line. It's a dance between becoming and unbecoming, between rising and resting. But now you have the tools. You've seen what you're capable of. You've learned to listen to your own voice. And that voice is the compass that will never lead you astray. You are allowed to outgrow people, places, and versions of yourself. You are allowed to take up space, speak your truth, and protect your peace. You are allowed to build a life that feels good on the inside, even if it looks different from what others expected. You are allowed to shine. And as you continue forward, just remember, not everyone will understand your transformation. They don't need to. Let your actions speak. Let your presence speak. Let your energy speak. The glow that comes from within doesn't need validation. It just needs you to keep choosing it. So here's to you, the woman in progress, the woman rising, the woman who is no longer afraid to be who she is. You didn't find her in some distant future. She's been with you the whole time, waiting for you to believe in her. You are becoming. You are her. Now go live like it.